This is the WJTS News. In tonight's news, Huntingburg man arrested after confrontation with police. DuBois fires kept firefighters busy over the past few days. Kurt Guxell will be in with sports, and on WJTS Inform we meet Jan Dugan, DuBois County Extension educator. All to come on WJTS TV News. Good evening. I'm Jenna Schaffer with the news. A Huntingburg man was placed under arrest and is facing several charges, including 2 counts of battery on a police officer after a pair of confrontations with law enforcement Tuesday evening. Around 8 o'clock last night, Huntingburg police were contacted by a family member of 42-year-old Chris Ferguson of Huntingburg, who police say drove Ferguson down to Huntingburg Police Headquarters so they could all talk about several problems family members were having with him throughout the day. While officers were speaking with Ferguson in the parking lot of the Huntingburg Police Department, police say he became very agitated and belligerent. Ferguson allegedly struck one of the officers and continued to yell after being told to stop several times. Ferguson was detained and, according to police, tested .26 on a portable breath test. He was placed into holding at the Huntingburg Police Department and continued to yell and be uncooperative. With the help of the DuBois County Sheriff's Department, Ferguson was taken to Memorial Hospital in Jasper for medical clearance. Police say once at Memorial, Ferguson once again became agitated and continued to be loud and disruptive. Officers again had to tell him to stop several times. Police say while inside the hospital, Ferguson's cuffs had to be changed from the front to the back side. While changing his cuffs, police say Ferguson resisted and fought with officers inside of the hospital, causing one of the officers' hands to bleed. Ferguson was treated and released from Memorial and was taken to the DuBois County Security Center, where he was booked with 2 level 6 felony counts of battery on law enforcement, 2 misdemeanor counts of resisting law enforcement, as well as misdemeanor counts of public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Crews with the DuBois Volunteer Fire Department were called into action a couple times over the last several days. Shortly before 8:30 this past Saturday night, DuBois volunteer firefighters were called to extinguish a trash fire at a home located along the 3000 block of North 325 East. DuBois Volunteer Fire Department Public Information Officer Zach Eichmiller says a conservation officer had stopped by the residence earlier in the day to request that nothing else be burned. Eichmiller says, however, later in the day, additional material was thrown on the fire and a fine was given. An unknown company was cleaning out the residence, which had been foreclosed on, and was burning the contents of the house. The fire department was requested to totally extinguish the fire so that law enforcement in the area would know if the fire had been restarted. 1 truck responded to the scene with 7 firefighters and were on scene for about 15 minutes. Just before 7:30 last night, DuBois firefighters were called out to the report of a chimney fire at the Hannah Fisher residence located along the 7400 block of East DuBois Cusco Road. Public Information Officer Zach Eichmiller says Fisher, along with her boyfriend Sean Arning and a 2-year-old child, were home when the fire was discovered. Arning told fire investigators that he smelled smoke and went downstairs where he saw a piece of pipe to the stove was red hot and that smoke was coming from the stove. Fisher took the child and evacuated the home to a nearby family member to call 911. Firefighters arrived shortly after the call and cleaned out the chimney and stove. Eichmiller says the stovepipe was in no condition to fire the stove again. The residents stated that they would be staying with family until repairs could be made or an alternative heat source could be found. No one was injured in the incident and there was no damage other than the stove being dysfunctional. 3 trucks responded to the Fisher residence along with 22 firemen and were on the scene for about 45 minutes. Employees at Hoosier Hills Credit Union's Jasper Service Center continued a long-standing tradition this holiday season by donating time, money, and materials to help make their holidays brighter for people and animals alike. The team's first community service project for 2018 was a visit to Good Samaritan Assisted Living, where they played bingo with the residents. Employees presented small gifts to the residents and gave extra prizes for the ones who got a bingo. The Jasper team also purchased supplies for Dubois County Humane Society. On November 26, the items were delivered and HHCU staff spent time visiting with all of the animals. From food pantries and crisis centers to humane societies, schools, assisted living facilities, and national service organizations like Habitat for Humanity and the Salvation Army, Hoosier Hills Credit Union employees are committed to the credit union philosophy of people helping people. Producers interested in improving their grazing management or looking to start a grass-finished beef enterprise should consider attending the Heart of America Grazing Conference January 22nd and 23rd to hear from leaders in the grazing industry. The Indiana Forage Council is organizing the 2019 conference. The Heart of America Grazing Conference is an annual event that moves around the Midwest. The host site for the conference is the Ferdinand Community Center in Ferdinand. Registration information is available at indianaforage.org. Dr. Keith Johnson, Forage Extension Specialist at Purdue University, says the Heart of America Grazing Conference is a great opportunity for all forage livestock producers. He says this multi-state educational event brings individuals from farms, agribusinesses, and education service providers together to network with one another about how to improve grazing management systems. Funding for the 2019 Heart of America Grazing Conference is in part from the Indiana Livestock Grant Program awarded by the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. The Ferdinand Community Center is located at 1710 Community Drive in Ferdinand. A fire late last week inflicted more than $2 million in damage at Boyd Equipment in Washington. 6 fire departments responded, and the City of Washington's department was on standby after a passerby reported the fire around 10:30 Friday evening. Washington Township Fire Chief Tony Wichman said the original caller said the building was occupied and fully engulfed, but when firefighters arrived, they found thick black smoke rolling from the commercial structure. Boyd Equipment works on heavy equipment including tractor trailers, bulldozers, trackers, etc. Wichman says several mechanics worked in the part of the 8,000 square foot steel structure, which was gutted. An Indiana Fire Marshal investigator has already been at the scene. However, no foul play is suspected. Extensive damage was done to equipment and tools inside the building, including 4 semi-tractors, one of which was totally destroyed, and 1 trailer. The parts room in the building was also heavily damaged. Wichman estimated damage to the building at $1.5 million and more than $1 million in other damages. 60 firefighters were on hand to fight the fire, including help from Wheatland-Steen Township, Veal Township, Southeast Montgomery, and Plainville. Officials say as many as 6,000 birds were killed in a fire that broke out last week southwest of Washington. The Washington Township Volunteer Fire Department responded to the blaze around 2 a.m. last Wednesday. The barn was engulfed in flames when firefighters arrived. Washington Township Fire Chief Tony Wichman says a security guard at Grain Processing Corporation, Washington, was making his rounds when he noticed the fire from about a half-mile away. Washington Township immediately requested aid from Stein Township in Knox County and Veal Township in Davies County. Officials say the 750-foot barn held around 15,000 birds at the time of the fire. Purdue employees were able to save around 9,000 turkeys and stop the fire from spreading to 2 nearby barns. The barn, located at the intersection of County Road 260 South and County Road 300 West, is owned by a Vincennes couple who raises birds for Purdue Farms. Officials are estimating the loss caused by the fire to be around $350,000 in both the barn and the birds. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. The producer plans to rebuild. Stay tuned. Weather, sports, and inform featuring Jan Dugan, all still to come on 18 WJTS News.